Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lee Camp, joined by Eleanor Goldfield. And today we're getting into more updates on the lovely genocide that Israel is perpetrating. We're going to get into what the U.S. is, the amazing democracy that the U.S. is furthering in Pakistan. And we're going to get into several more important stories, some of them actually good news. We've got at least one or two.
At least one's a good news story. And I'd just like to congratulate you on your lovely new background. Also,
thank you. For those listening to the podcast, the background is moving.
It's moving. I recommend that you just look at a video that gets posted online at some point because it is kind of snazzy. Also, I'm going to be driving this bus and rowing this boat more so today than I usually do because Lee's mouth hurts, the dentist issue. Like Steve Martin from Little Shop of Horrors.
Indeed, like that. Although I didn't actually go to the dentist. I just saw him on the street and he stabbed me in the mouth. So, I mean, that is the relationship we have.
And I just finished a workout, so I'm a hot, sweaty mess. But if you're listening to the podcast, that shit don't matter. So it's only for you viewers at home that have to look at my sweaty messness. But I will still be
sweaty messness.
I will still be bringing the facts.
I believe it's messosity. Okay, so
mestacity.
It's metastasized into this mess we have here. So let's start off with genocide updates. And by the way, I never intended, and you do it with me, but I unfortunately have to do it 4 days a week. I never intended to become your resident anti-Zionist Jew doing a genocide report every day, but that's what I am now. And that's what we are now. So let's give the updates on Israel, where they are targeting and continue to target refugee camps, which is not only a war crime, but they told Palestinians to evacuate to these refugee camps. And this is an update today from Al Jazeera. The UN's humanitarian chief Griffiths says Gaza a place of death and despair for Palestinians as Israel attacks Al Amal Hospital in South Gaza. Heavy bombardments are reported near, oh God, should I subject them with this pronunciation? Deir al-Balah, including at the Nezarat al-Maghazi and al-Barej refugee camps as Israeli forces residents to evacuate south, but then attacks people in the south.
I'd also just like to take a media literacy moment and talk about the absurdity of saying that Gaza is becoming uninhabitable. Wow. That word, uninhabitable, because even prior to October 7th, of course, the UN has already said that Gaza is, it's the most densely populated place on the planet. It already was uninhabitable. So to say that now it's become uninhabitable or even becoming uninhabitable, once again, the language that is used to talk about what's happening in Gaza just consistently lessens the severity of reality. And so it's not becoming uninhabitable. It is uninhabitable. It's being carpet bombed constantly with not just bombs, but white phosphorus. I mean, like, this is a level of terroristic genocide that we have not seen. And so to say that it's becoming uninhabitable is kind of like saying that it's becoming uninhabitable to live underwater. Like, it's just an absurd way to phrase this. So right. I just want to, from a media literacy perspective, it's really just dumb.
And further to your point, even prior to October 7th, in Gaza, many people were dying from preventable diseases, dying from unclean water, unclean food. So in that way, like you're saying, it was uninhabitable even before October 7th, even before the current genocide efforts were cranked up to 11. Good points.
Well, actually, flowing from that, I think this Stephen Semler one would be a good one to piggyback off of that one. Stephen Semler, we talk about his work really quite often. He does great work. And you can find him on radindiemedia.com, by the way.
What is radindiemedia.com?
Pray tell. radintomedia.com is a website made by these two schmoes, Lee Camp and Eleanor Goldfield, that is a collection of radical independent media, as in non-corporate and not centrist, right-wing, liberal, whatever.
So it could be like your front page of news every day rather
Basically.
than New York Times.
You just scroll through it and see things from Stephen Semler, from Project Censored, from Gray Zone, Mint Press News, all these really great and important outlets that tell you the truth about what's happening around the world. So that's a cool thing.
What? And it's free? Crazy.
Crazy
Okay.
pants. Okay, moving on. So this is a report by Stephen Semler. And I have to say it was a bit clickbaity with the title, but it got my attention.
Dude, you don't have to tell me about clickbait. I spent half my day coming up with clickbaity titles. It's for these lovely folks to tune in.
There you go. Aiding and abetting Israeli war crimes with, quote, dumb bombs. So, basically, the situation is that this Israel is currently pulling from U.S. weapons stockpiles inside Israel, because that's a thing that the U.S. does. And these weapons include, as one person put it, it's full of so-called dumb munitions, those without sophisticated guidance system, such as thousands of iron bombs that are simply dropped from aircraft so gravity can do its work.
And they've been using this term even on mainstream media of dumb bombs recently, and we hadn't heard this much, but the U.S. was heavily touting beginning about 23 years ago, smart bombs that we were using, and how, oh, they only kill the bad guy. No, they freaking don't. But so all bombs are dumb bombs, but these are even dumber. These are even more stupid. There is no guidance to them.
Well, and the point that is being made here by several groups and organizations is that because indiscriminate attacks are a war crime, you would really need to have guidance systems that can specifically guide a bomb to a specific location where you supposedly know that there are combatants.
Bad guys.
But of course,
bad guys.
But of course, here's the thing. There are several things that go against this. One, that Israel has any kind of interest in killing quote unquote bad guys. Secondly, that in a place as densely populated as Gaza, that would make a shit bit of difference, because there is no way that you can single out anyone in a situation like you have in Gaza. And then, of course, thirdly, when you're dropping that many bombs, it doesn't matter if they have guidance systems or not. You are carpet bombing entire areas. And so who gives a shit whether one of them has a guidance system or not? You are just bombing these people to oblivion. So the idea that this has any real world effect is actually ludicrous. But the reason that I bring this up is because it further proves that Israel needs munitions, because now it's literally like trolling through U.S. munitions supplies that are housed in Israel. It further proves that without the U.S.'s support, Israel couldn't continue this genocide at all. And the third point, which is a bit tangential, but something worth mentioning, that this really goes against, or it supports the claim of U.S. supporting and basically making possible the genocide in Gaza, which is something that South Africa has pointed out in their most recent case against Israel, claiming genocide in Gaza that has gone to the ICJ, the so-called World Court of the UN. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you mentioned this on a previous.
I have. I covered it yesterday.
So just a quick note about that. And there's an episode of Project Censored coming out early next week where I talk to Hassan Ben Imran, who works with the organization Law for Palestine, where we discussed this. And he said that he actually has some hope with regards to this case at the World Court, not because the U.S. cares about the UN, not because the UN has any kind of enforcement mechanism, but because of what this would mean in terms of the international understanding of what's happening in Palestine, and support, both material and ideological support, for Israel. And he says he definitely sees that tide turning if this case continues to move through the world court, and of course if it somehow ended up at the ICC, but then of course the US could just invade the Netherlands. So but anyway, so I just wanted to touch on that, because I think when I first heard about this, I was like, screw it, because the UN is about, I mean, the UN doesn't have any enforcement mechanism, so it's useless. But I think that it's important to say that multiple things can be true. The UN does not have an enforcement mechanism. And also, this could be a very important step in terms of not only pushing global support away from Israel, but also one of the things that South Africa mentions in its demands are reparations for Palestinians. So if this moves forward, there could be some real movement with regards to ultimately ending the apartheid regime of Israel. And then the other thing that Hassan bin Imran pointed out is that because it's not like the ICC, where the ICC goes after individuals, like this figurehead and that figurehead. The ICJ deals with the state. So everyone that is responsible in the state of Israel would be put on trial, not just like Ben Gvir or Netanyahu. So it would be like the apparatus, which once again points out that the entire state of Israel is at fault. The entire state of Israel is oppressive and an apartheid and genocidal regime. So again, those were some points that I wanted to share with y'all. And again, you can listen to this at projectcensored.org early next week.
The podcast. And the podcast. I just wanted to go back to the bombs for a second before we move on. All good points about them using dumb bombs, and a lot of the time because they don't actually care whether they're killing civilians or not. And in fact, they want to kill civilians because it means they have fewer people to ethnically cleanse out of that region, which some of them have publicly stated, in the Israeli government have publicly stated that is their goal, to get all Gazans, all Palestinians out of that area with it, which is by definition ethnic cleansing. They're apparently secretly in talks with Congo and other nations to move people to those countries. But to go back to the bombs for a second, I believe it was Luz in the chat made a good point as well, which I've mentioned in previous live streams, which is the bombs they're using right now almost exclusively are not bunker buster bombs, meaning they don't impact the tunnels. And Israel knows that Hamas, the militants that they're supposedly going after, are in the tunnels. So they know they're in the tunnels, and they know the bombs they're dropping right now do not impact said tunnels. So therefore, why drop the bombs? Well, you would only drop them if you want to have collective punishment, if you want to create genocide as a form of punishment against the Palestinian people, and you don't care that you're not hitting the tunnels. You just want to kill and damage the infrastructure as much as possible. So the idea that they're going after Hamas militants is laughable.
Well, they've even said so. Like, it's not even just the interpretation of events. Literally, the official Israeli, I almost said US, but also Israeli officials have said that they want to empty Gaza of people, that they want to commit genocide, that they want there to not be any Palestinians left. They've basically said in so many words that they want genocide. And so that the idea then to argue with them about whether they want the thing that they just said they want, that's just, it's absurd. And so anybody who's still on the train of like, well, they got to find Hamas and they're just trying to find him, you are a level of stupid that I can't actually it's so far down the stupid ladder that I can't get there. Well, I can't spelunk to that depth of dumb shittery. And
speaking of stupid, the very few people that are still trying to defend this as somehow a legitimate military response, it's just hilarious to see them try, even attempt. And there aren't that many out there that you see, really. There are those quote unquote defending Israel, but they're not defending a lot of what Israel's doing right now. But I had someone, I think I reposted or tweeted about how one of the Israeli parliament members tried to justify or say that starvation was the goal, and that people are starving. Yeah, but it's okay because without starvation, we don't get cooperation or something like that. And speaking of dumb, a comedian I used to know years ago responded with, well, people can live up to a month without food and at least a week without water. And it's like, so you're going to starve children. It's fine now. Like, it's so berserk, the attempts at justification.
And also, that's not true. That, like, maybe some people can. Would it be really awkward if I ran up and got a book? Because there is some really interesting historical context to this from Khalid bin Ali's book that I really wanted to share, but I left the book upstairs. Would it be really awkward if I just ran and got that really quick?
Is for this topic?
It's for the topic of like using food as.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm going to move on to this Pakistan story, and then we'll circle back. Okay,
I'm so sorry.
There will be a circling of back. Oh God, now everyone's got to watch your attempt at the bull in the china shop.
Wait, no, I got it.
I think she's stuck, folks.
I got it. No, I'll be right back.
Okay. So while Eleanor runs to get a book, now it looks like my co-host died or something, like empty chair. But we were going to bring you this story next, so I'll just go ahead and get to it now. You don't have to rush. I'm starting another story. Oh. All right. Well, I don't. As long as you're clamoring around, I guess we'll wait.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I just wanted to give some historical context for this because, again, nothing happens in a vacuum, right? So the crimes that Israel is perpetrating, they didn't come up with it themselves. They're too fucking. They're too not creative.
And we're gonna talk a little more about Khalid bin Ali later in the show as well.
We are, but just like the author Sven Lindqvist wrote in "Exterminate All the Brutes," the ideas that created the framework for the Holocaust.
Someone's asking what's with your Starbucks shirt. It says "Star." Just say no to Starbucks. So.
Yeah, it's not what you think it is. You gotta look closely.
Yeah, you gotta listen. The devil's in the detail, and actually the Starbucks woman has little horns there.
Yeah. So. Okay. Just like Hitler was growing up in a Europe where he saw what was happening in Africa vis-a-vis colonialism and got a lot of ideas from that, and also then got a lot of ideas from the U.S. The same thing is true of Israel, and I just wanted to share this from Khalid bin Ali's book. So this was a U.S. Colonel Kit Carson in the mid 1800s who basically created food scarcity. It was a scorched earth policy which effectively starved many Diné people into surrender. Word reached those who had not been captured that food was being distributed at Fort Defiance. Many families chose to go to the fort to alleviate their hunger and discuss peace, unaware of Carleton's plans for relocation. Upon arrival at the fort, the Diné found that they could not return back to their homes and were captives of the United States military. Starvation was essentially weaponized materially and politically. So again, we see this. Oh, thank you. We see this happening. We see this happening in Israel as well, using food to commit war crimes as a pawn. And this is not a new idea. And it's not like this U.S. colonel came up with the idea either. These are colonialist policies that have been recycled and reused and will be recycled and reused until the death of colonialism. So I just wanted to make that connection because I feel like it's important that we recognize not just how the U.S. is currently supporting genocide, but has a history of using the same tactics that it's now supporting in Israel, using them on indigenous peoples in the so-called United States.
Well said. And we'll be talking more about Khalid bin Ali a little later in the show.
Thank you for letting me run off.
Well, I was going to start another.
Hope that wasn't too awkward for
everyone.
I was
going to start another topic, but then I got one sentence in and dunk back down the stairs.
Well, it's not. I mean, I didn't have to go up 50 flights. It was like right there.
Anyway, I thought you had to go find a book. Okay, so all right. So I want to get to. Some of you may know Pakistan right now is having an election or gearing up for election. And I brought you a lot of coverage. It was several months ago. I think it might have been a year ago. It all blends together. But whenever it was, I'm pretty sure it was over a year ago. Imran Khan was, the U.S. used a kind of lawfare coup to kick Imran Khan, very popular prime minister, out of power in Pakistan because he was siding more with Russia in the proxy war between Russia and the U.S., and they succeeded and they got him kicked out. He then started touring the country, kind of like Trump did, having rallies, even though he wasn't running technically for office. And the rallies were getting bigger and bigger, and tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, people showing up. And it was very clear that if another election was held, he would win again, which cannot happen because, hey, the U.S. is like, we want our coups to stick. And so they then got him arrested. Pakistan, the Pakistani opposition parties or whatever, got him arrested. He's now in prison right now, Imran Khan. Oh, he was also shot as well, and I believe in the leg.
Is he? He's in prison in Pakistan.
In prison in Pakistan right now, and so apparently right now they're having an election, and anyone who goes to put their name into the election, for consideration, if they are running in his party, I don't remember the name of his party, but if they're running in his party, they're arrested immediately. Like they show up to the polling place, they say, I want to run on Imran Khan's party. They're just arrested and I guess disappeared. I don't know. Sounds like a great democracy, doesn't it? And the U.S. is supporting this. The U.S. is a big fan of this quote unquote democracy.
Well, I was just going to say, isn't that what happens? Not arrested, but when you show up and you want to run on like a third party ticket in the U.S., they're like, that sounds great. And then don't let you actually engage in the process.
Similar. They don't arrest you. However, they did arrest Jill Stein.
When she was trying to get to the debates.
She tried to attend the debates in 2012, and they arrested her, chained her to a chair in the basement in a locked room with an armed guard.
Yeah.
And she asked if they could just unhook her handcuffs because they hurt. And she's a 5'4" older lady. And they said no. Anyway, that all aside, here is the response when a reporter asked our government about, is this really a democracy? People are being arrested as they show up to run for office.
So you're not going to have any candidates for the people to choose from. So how can Pakistani people choose their government if there's nobody to choose from on the ballot? And is this something that is concerning?
So I will say, without commenting on that, the specific matters, we want to see free and fair elections that are conducted in accordance with Pakistan's laws. It's not for the United States to dictate to Pakistan.
I'm going to keep going, but I just love the free and fair elections and arrest whoever the hell you want.
Well, but it's not.
It's fine with us.
The fact that he said it's not up to the U.S. to dictate when you literally just cooed the damn place. It's like,
yeah, of course,
that is such a remarkable comment.
The U.S. dictates all this shit.
How it conducts the exact specifics of how it conducts its election, but to make clear that we want to see those elections conducted in a free, fair, and peaceful manner that includes freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and association, and ultimately a full, open, reliable, vibrant democratic process.
But it feels like election rigging of this level would merit sanctions. If a Maduro-like government did something like this, it would seem like the State Department might come down a little harder. This is 250 million person democracy.
And we will continue to support democratic expression and a vibrant democracy in Pakistan, but I don't have anything to preview from here.
Did you catch that, folks? We will support democratic suppression. And then someone points it out to him.
You said you will continue to support democratic suppression.
I said expression.
Oh,
expression.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, you definitely did not say expression.
Wow. So I mean, we could spend the rest of the time just talking about psychology, but like, does that mean that like there's a little modicum of humanity in this douche canoe that just like popped up for a hot second, like a sparkler?
No, no. Freudian slips do not mean there's humanity there. I mean, I will say, so you mentioned earlier today Bush's now famous Freudian slip where he said, invading a country for no reason illegally. He says you can't do that, such as the invasion of Iraq. And he meant to say Ukraine. Now, I will say that Bush is a soulless piece of shit, but it does seem that these decisions were not his to make. They were made by Dick Cheney and others, Rumsfeld, and he seems to have an issue with them because he's had multiple Freudian slips in that arena.
Well, he has issues with them, or
like it's something in his psyche is hung up on the fact that he killed 1 million people.
So
that,
then that does mean
that
that there
would-
is like a modicum of humanity.
in his case, that would. In this guy's case, I think he just probably part of his brain was going, don't say suppression, don't say suppression, don't say suppression. So he said suppression, but don't think of an elephant kind of thing. But yes, amazing to watch them admit that this is.
Sometimes I hope that like, a million years from now, when there's some other life form that somehow gets a way to watch some of the hilarious pitfalls of humanity on Earth, I hope they see this and they just have a chuckle.
They have a great time.
I just hope that like in a million years, somebody can laugh at how remarkably evil and stupid the United States is. I hope that for them.
I'm laughing now. Can I laugh
Well,
now?
I know,
Can I
but
do it now?
but there's like a lot of hurt in the laugh, but in a million years, I hope they can just laugh at it.
Just have a good time.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to, and by the way, if you guys want to get a jump start in about 10 minutes, we'll be going to justrumble.com/Lee Camp, as well as my locals page, and it is free to watch there.
It's not just rumble.com/Lee Camp, it's rumble.com.
rumble.com/Lee Camp. All right, let's get to how high rent is killing people.
Yeah, so you can file this under I felt this, but like I didn't have a study that backed it up. But yeah, so basically a recent report by the journal, it appeared in the Journal of Social Science and Medicine, shows that unaffordable rents are linked to premature death,
which is one of the worst things you can catch.
Yeah,
premature death.
It's usually fatal. So, for instance, an individual paying 50% of their income towards rent in 2000 was 9% more likely to die over the next 20 years compared with somebody paying 30% of their income towards rent. Now, this is
basically, if you put all your money towards rent, you tend to not have it for things like doctors and stuff, which are ridiculously expensive in the US, or probably towards healthier food, because it's a lot cheaper to buy McDonald's than to buy, healthy food of any sort. So yeah, the money goes towards rent and not towards other things.
Well, not only that, but what they also point out, it's a Princeton study. What they also point out here is the stress. The stress.
I try and remind you every time that you do that the podcast has no idea why you stop mid-sentence and go, eh. It sounds like you farted or something. It's like, and I got to tell you, well, hello. Like it's
because Lee likes to put articles over my face. And it's not that I need to see my face, but I feel like maybe people want to see my face because I'm here.
Accidental.
Yeah, it's like the Freudian slip thing. Anyway, so they are highlighting the stress factor as well. And there have been multiple studies about the effect that stress has on premature death, which is,
right.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
The more you stress, the quicker you die. So the point that they're making here is that it is so remarkably stressful to rent, to try and find rental properties and to hold on to them in the United States, that you will die sooner. And they make the distinction between those who rent and those who own because basically their point is that most homeowners have like a fixed rate mortgage, and particularly if they've been there for quite a while, then they have less mortgage to worry about. But whereas renters can expect their rent to go up significantly each year or whenever, if they don't have the benefits of rent control, which most people don't, as their wages stagnate or even they lose access to wages, and the price of food, everything else goes up while their wages stagnate. So this really just highlighted, basically, as they put it, the political economy of housing as a fundamental cause of health, and in this case, bad health. So yeah, basically that's it in a nutshell.
But But just to add to this, this is, if you dig down deeper, this has to do with the fact that our ruling elite and the capitalist system as a whole has no care for actually how individuals are doing on this planet, in this country. There is no consideration given for whether people are doing well out there. That is how you end up with 17 million empty homes across America, and yet people homeless, and yet people living with 3 families in a 1-family home. There is no care given for. Yes, there actually is an invisible hand of the free market, except it just pushes everything towards profit while all else dies. The environment dies, the pit dies, the people die, people struggle, they get sick. All of it is just done in the pursuit of profit, and there is no care given for the fact that people are struggling and miserable and barely hanging on. And this study just proves a little bit more of that point.
Right, and then of course they've also shown that this has a racial aspect. Wow, that's shocking, isn't it?
Hold on, in the United States, we are in a post-racial world right now. Okay,
I agree.
I took down the sign that said "other water fountain over there." I took it down.
And this is they're also showing it over time. So they start taking numbers from roughly 2000. So over time, the connection between early mortality and difficulty finding or holding on to a rental property, that rises over time. And of course, they also with their findings of eviction, that is also leading to early mortality, not least of all because a lot of times when people end up evicted, they end up homeless. Now, they didn't go and find out whether these people were homeless, but they found that there is a direct correlation between evictions and bad health. Again, not at all surprising.
Shocking.
But to have, I think a lot of times having something in black and white, so to speak, kind of like the other Princeton study that shows that it doesn't make a shit bit of difference what the people of the US want. The government just does what the oligarchy wants.
Right.
So I think sometimes having it in like these very structured and academic terms helps other people accept that this is just how it is. And so I recommend sharing this with folks who might have some questions about, whether the US is a good place.
All right, we are getting to some big good news about pipelines. We're also going. I have another really good news story about the solutions that are out there in our systems as we continue to destroy this planet. There are actually answers to the destruction, as long as we would actually put the effort and money behind them. I'll bring you some of that as well, and we'll see if we get to even more stories than that, which we have lined up. All of that's at rumble.com/Lee Camp. It is free to watch there, rumble.com/Lee Camp, LEECAMP, as well as my locals page for everyone at locals, which is where you support the show. If you actually want to see this show keep going and you actually think it's worth it, then please become a supporter at leecamp.net, which will forward you to locals, or click the Join Lee tab with the red button underneath the videos on Rumble. All right, let's head over there. And if you want to start on this story. Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Yes. Okay. So basically, this is good news. I know. We never have good news.
Well,
so when I saw this, I was like,
But also the thing is, we have good and bad news about Mountain Valley Pipeline. It seems once a month.
Well, yeah, that's fair. So basically, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of like the extensions and when this was first proposed, et cetera, et cetera. But the good news is that the latest extension